Oh, man! Hi, everyone. Ithany Won't Worko here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new FKA Twigs record, LP1. FKA Twigs, or as I will refer to her from now on in this video, just Twigs. She is a UK singer, songwriter, dancer, producer, and she has been making waves in the pop world for the past couple years. With her pretty peculiar look, which has grabbed the attention of many people, not only in her own music videos or promotional photos, but in the music videos of other artists who she has been doing backup dancing for since she was a teenager. But Twigs has also been turning heads with the sound of her music, which is incredibly gorgeous, mystical, subtle, psychedelic, and slow-moving pop. There were some pretty viral and strange tracks that built up to the release of her last EP, EP2, songs like Water Me and Poppy Pacify. However, I thought these songs and the tracks on this EP as a whole were kind of a little too ethereal and atmospheric, more than they were actual or tangible. Still, Twigs had a really interesting pop aesthetic that had me looking forward to whatever she was going to do in the future. She was creating some interesting, very hushed pop music with elements of R&B, hip-hop, trip-hop. Twigs singing on these tracks was very whispered, very quiet. There were loads of weird samples and effects throughout these songs too. Of course, this production was being brought to the table by Arca, a Venezuelan producer who's been turning a lot of heads lately with his incredibly strange production on his handful of releases. He also took part in producing for Kanye's last record, Yeezus. And a lot of people have kind of credited Arca with helping Twigs find the sound that she's currently riding on now. And there are some other people in this new strain of alternative R&B artists who take part in this album as well. Devonte Hines does some production on here, as well as Ink. Even though this new strain of alternative R&B records that have been coming out lately have been sort of hit or miss, Twigs, together with a lot of people taking part in this new scene of music, come together with, I think, a hit of an album, at least an artistic hit. This might not be the peppiest or the most instantaneous pop record of the year, but this LP showcases Twigs' most captivating material yet. Structurally, melodically, sonically, the songs on this record are way more coherent, I think, than anything she's done in the past. Not just this sort of experimental smudginess. Though I will say the intro track to this record is pretty experimental, though definitely sets the perfect tone for this album. It's this weird combination of beautifully harmonized vocals from Twigs that sound really heavenly, like I'm listening to them being performed in a cathedral or something. And then this is backed with some really weird, twisted, warped hip-hop production and sort of sour, strange synthesizers. This is going to be an album that will be irresistibly sweet and sexy, but weird as well, which is essentially the second track on this LP, Lights On, in a nutshell. I love the booming, upright bass notes on this track. They could be synthesized, but they still sound great. I love the sort of light but very cacophonous percussion and strange samples that help make that percussion up. Among these samples, I think, is a car alarm, but still the instrumental is very sort of soft and kind of faint in a way. Everything is just so thick. These productions are dense, but they still manage to come off kind of gentle and tender and have a certain amount of finesse to them. I actually think there are very few newcomers in pop music right now that have as much finesse, are as dynamic as the vocals and the instrumentals showcased on LP1. I love the haunting mantra of the chorus on this song, saying that when I trust you, we'll do it with the lights on. It's such a short statement, and it is said over and over in this track, but it can be read into so deeply. Again, the instrumental is so strange, it's so colorful, it's so interesting, and yet the tune underneath it, or rather on top of it, is beautiful and catchy as well. And this is also the case for the biggest single off of this record, 2 Weeks. For the most part on this album, Twigs hangs in her upper register when she's singing, but there are moments on this track where she digs into her mid-range and it sounds gorgeous. I also love the descending vocal melody on the bridge of this track around the 3-minute mark. It's very reminiscent of like an old school 90s R&B jam. Also the rising instrumentation toward the back end of this track as it progresses. This song is produced to the nines. Some of the beats on this record are so off-kilter and glitchy and have just the strangest samples. It reminds me of like Vespertine era Bjork, which is my favorite Bjork record, which is also a vibe that comes off on the song Hours, though I do think that is one of my least favorite tracks on this LP just because of how cluttered it feels. There's the song Numbers, which has some very sour melodies coming through on the instrumentals at the very start, but ends up very beautiful. Everything comes together really nicely on the end of the track. And even though it is one of the more lyrically redundant songs, it does have one of the more interesting and heartbroken sentiments on the entire LP, sort of questioning who seems to be an ex-lover, asking him, was I just a number to you, another person to sleep with? Or could number mean something else? Because on the song Video Girl, we have a refrain that almost sounds like, I don't know, as if Twigs is questioning someone about some infidelity or something, like, oh, is that the girl from the video? Don't lie to me. But in fact, it is a song about Twigs being a backup dancer in music videos and sort of being known for that, but her trying to advance herself instead as a solo artist. The difficulty she's had on this journey also seems to be expressed on the song Give Up, which is, in my opinion, one of the better tunes on the record too, but lyrically, the song talks about how she's not ready to just kind of give up on her dreams because there are other people out there who might doubt her. So there are some moments on this album that do feel quite autobiographical when it comes to the point at which she is at right now with her music. And sonically, I think she's in a really good place, especially with tracks like Pendulum, a song that normally I would not dig tracks that are produced in this way and are so slow in tempo, yet this is an amazing song. It is so sluggish, and yet the really tense twittering percussion on this track, as well as Twigs singing, just keep me on the edge of my seat with every bar. Yes, there are some good tunes on this record and good performances, but what's so fantastic about this thing is just the production, the detail in these beats, in these instrumentals. My only major issue with this LP is that there are just a couple songs that pale in comparison to others, whether they be Hours, like I said earlier, that is a little too cluttered, or the song Closer, which I think is maybe a little underwhelmingly bare and stripped back. And the final track, to me, while it is a good tune, it starts off a little disjointed, but I do think it ends off very well. It's not really the most immense or eventful finish to the album. But still, even in this album's most okay moments, the beats and the productions remain to be very wondrous and pretty, and for the most part, imaginative. I think this is a great record, even though there are a lot of aspects to its singing style and its production that feel very in vogue right now. I think Twigs has come out ahead, supremely ahead, with an incredibly creative and artful set of songs. Not only can Twigs and her producers write good songs, but they have a fantastic ear as to how these songs should sound. I'm feeling a strong 8 to a light 9 on this thing, transition, but if you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano, FKA Twigs, LP1, forever.